17-year-old intern has idea stolen by boss, but fate prepares a twist that no one expected. Hello, welcome, leave a like, subscribe, activate notifications, and enjoy this story. In the cutthroat world of Silicon Valley, young genius Jamal Thompson's groundbreaking idea is stolen by his ruthless boss. But as corporate greed and racial prejudice threaten to crush his dreams, an unexpected alliance and a shocking revelation are about to turn the tables in ways no one could have imagined. The sleek, glass-walled headquarters of Technova Incorporated loomed over Jamal Thompson as he hurried through the bustling streets of Palo Alto. At just 17, Jamal was the youngest intern the company had ever hired, and he was determined to make his mark. His heart raced with a mixture of excitement and anxiety as he clutched his battered laptop bag closer to his chest, protecting the precious code that had consumed his every waking hour for the past 3 months. Jamal's fingers twitched, itching to get back to his keyboard. He had poured his soul into this project, a revolutionary AI algorithm that could predict and prevent cyber attacks with unprecedented accuracy. It was more than just lines of code. It was his ticket out of the rundown neighborhood where he'd grown up, a chance to prove that a black kid from East Palo Alto could change the world. As he swiped his ID badge and entered the building, Jamal couldn't help but feel like an imposter in this world of polished floors and designer suits. He tugged self-consciously at the collar of his thrift store button-down, wishing he could afford the crisp shirts and tailored slacks his coworkers wore so effortlessly. The elevator dinged, and Jamal stepped out onto the 42nd floor, home to Technova's most elite development team. He made his way to his tiny cubicle, nodding politely to colleagues who barely spared him a glance. As he booted up his computer, a shadow fell across his desk. "Thompson, my office. Now." Jamal looked up to see Marcus Reeves, Technova's chief technology officer, looming over him. Reeves was a Silicon Valley legend, known for his brilliant mind and cutthroat business tactics. His steel-gray eyes bore into Jamal, sending a shiver down the young intern's spine. "Yes, sir," Jamal stammered, scrambling to his feet. He followed Reeves down the hallway, his mind racing. Was this it? The moment he'd been waiting for? A chance to present his idea to one of the most powerful men in tech. Reeves' office was a testament to his success. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the Bay Area, while shelves lined with awards and cutting-edge gadgets showcased his numerous accomplishments. The CTO settled into his ergonomic chair and fixed Jamal with an appraising stare. "I've been reviewing the team's progress reports," Reeves began, his tone maddeningly neutral. "Your supervisor tells me you've been working on a side project." Jamal's heart leaped into his throat. This was his chance. "Yes, sir," he said, fighting to keep his voice steady. "I've developed an AI algorithm that can predict and prevent cyber attacks with 99.8% accuracy. It's a game changer, sir. It could revolutionize online security for millions of users." Reeves leaned forward, his interest piqued. "Show me." With trembling hands, Jamal pulled out his laptop and launched the program. For the next 20 minutes, he walked Reeves through the intricacies of his creation, explaining how it used machine learning to analyze patterns and anticipate threats in real time. As Jamal spoke, he could see the gleam of excitement in Reeves' eyes growing brighter. The CTO peppered him with questions, each more detailed than the last. Jamal answered them all, his confidence growing with each response. Finally, Reeves leaned back in his chair, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Impressive, Thompson. Very impressive. I'd like you to send me all your files and documentation. We'll need to run this by legal, of course, but I think you might be onto something here." Jamal could hardly contain his elation. "Thank you, sir. I'll send everything right away. I can't wait to see what we can do with this technology." As he turned to leave, Reeves called out, "Oh, and Thompson? Not a word of this to anyone. We wouldn't want to tip off the competition, now would we?" "Of course not, sir," Jamal replied, practically floating out of the office. He rushed back to his desk, his mind already spinning with visions of the future. He imagined his name in tech magazines, his algorithm changing the face of cybersecurity, his mother finally able to retire from her 2 jobs. Jamal worked late into the night, meticulously organizing his files and polishing his documentation. As he hit send on the email to Reeves, he felt a sense of pride and accomplishment unlike anything he'd ever experienced. This was it, his big break, the moment that would change everything. Little did Jamal know, fate had a very different plan in store. One that would test his resolve, challenge his beliefs, and ultimately lead to a twist that no one, least of all Jamal Thompson, could have possibly expected. The weeks following Jamal's meeting with Marcus Reeves passed in a blur of anticipation and nervous energy. Every ping of his email inbox sent his heart racing, hoping for news about his algorithm. But as days turned into weeks, and weeks into a month, the silence from the executive floor became deafening. Jamal threw himself into his regular intern duties with renewed vigor, determined to prove his worth beyond just his breakthrough idea. He arrived earlier, stayed later, and took on every task with a dedication that didn't go unnoticed by his immediate supervisor, Lisa Chun. "You're on fire lately, Jamal," Lisa remarked one afternoon, as Jamal debugged a particularly tricky piece of code. "Whatever Reeves said to you in that meeting must have lit a real spark." Jamal's fingers froze over his keyboard. He remembered Reeves' warning about discretion. "Oh, he said, trying to sound casual. "Just trying to make the most of this opportunity." Lisa raised an eyebrow but didn't press further. As she walked away, Jamal couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Why hadn't he heard anything about his algorithm? Surely, if they were moving forward with it, he'd be involved in the process. His answer came on a rain-soaked Tuesday morning, 6 weeks after his meeting with Reeves. Jamal had just settled into his cubicle when a company-wide email pinged into his inbox. The subject line made his blood run cold. Technova announces revolutionary AI cybersecurity solution. With trembling fingers, Jamal opened the email. As he read, his world crumbled around him. The press release described, in glowing terms, a new AI algorithm developed by Marcus Reeves and his team. An algorithm that could predict and prevent cyber attacks with unprecedented accuracy. His algorithm. Jamal read and reread the email, hoping desperately that he was mistaken. But there was no doubt the technology described was his creation, down to the last detail. Only his name was nowhere to be found. The office around him erupted into excited chatter as colleagues discussed the announcement. Jamal sat frozen, his mind reeling. How could this be happening? He had trusted Reeves, had believed that this was his chance to prove himself. "Congratulations, everyone," Marcus Reeves' booming voice cut through the noise as he strode onto the floor, flanked by a team of executives. "This is a landmark day for Technova. Our new AI cybersecurity solution is going to change the game, and I couldn't be prouder of the team that made it happen." Jamal's chair scraped loudly against the floor as he stood up, drawing curious glances from his coworkers. Reeves' eyes locked onto him, and for a brief moment, Jamal saw a flicker of, was it guilt? But it was gone in an instant, replaced by the CTO's usual mask of confident authority. "Mr. Reeves," Jamal began, his voice shaking, "I don't understand. That's my algorithm. The one I showed you." Reeves cut him off smoothly. Thompson, your input was certainly valuable in the early stages. But surely you understand that a project of this magnitude requires a team of experienced professionals to bring it to fruition." Jamal felt as if he'd been punched in the gut. "But sir, I developed that algorithm entirely on my own. I have proof, my original files, my documentation, which you willingly shared with the company," Reeves interjected, his voice taking on a steely edge. "As per your internship agreement, any work you do here belongs to Technova. I'm sure you're not suggesting that you, a high school intern, single-handedly developed a technology that our top engineers have been working towards for years." The implication hung heavy in the air. Jamal looked around desperately, seeking any ally, any friendly face. But his colleagues averted their eyes, uncomfortable with the confrontation. Even Lisa, who had always been kind to him, suddenly seemed fascinated by her shoes. I didn't," Jamal stammered, feeling the weight of every stare in the room. Reeves placed a patronizing hand on Jamal's shoulder. "I know you're excited, Thompson," and you should be proud of your contribution. But let's not get carried away. Why don't you take the rest of the day off? Celebrate this win for the company." With that, Reeves turned away, already launching into an enthusiastic description of the algorithm's potential to a group of wide-eyed developers. Jamal stood rooted to the spot, humiliation and anger warring within him. As the excitement continued to build around him, Jamal slowly gathered his things. He felt numb, disconnected from the cheerful chaos that had engulfed the office. As he walked towards the elevator, he caught snippets of conversation. "Can you believe Reeves developed this? We're going to be rolling in government contracts. Kids got some nerve, trying to take credit." The doors slid shut, and Jamal leaned against the cool metal wall, fighting back tears of frustration. How could he have been so naive? He had handed over his life's work, gift-wrapped, to a man who had no qualms about stealing from a 17-year-old kid. As he stepped out into the rainy street, Jamal's mind raced. What could he do? Who would believe him over Marcus Reeves, the tech visionary? He was just a black teenager from the wrong side of town, with no money, no connections, and now, no future in the industry he had dreamed of revolutionizing. But as the rain soaked through his thin jacket, a spark of determination flickered to life in Jamal's chest. This wasn't over. He wouldn't let Reeves get away with this. Somehow, someway, he would prove that the algorithm was his creation. Little did Jamal know that fate was already setting in motion a chain of events that would not only change his life but shake the very foundations of Silicon Valley. As he trudged home through the rain, unseen eyes watched from the shadows, and unseen hands prepared to deal the cards that would lead to a twist of destiny beyond anything Jamal could have imagined. The following days passed in a haze of despair and frantic research for Jamal. He scoured online forums, tech blogs, and legal websites, searching for any precedent that might help his case. But everywhere he looked, the message was the same. As an intern, he had little to no legal recourse against a corporate giant like Technova. Jamal's mother, Tanisha, watched her son's descent into obsession with growing concern. "Baby, you need to eat something," she said one evening, setting a plate of food beside his laptop. Jamal barely looked up, his bloodshot eyes fixed on the screen. "I can't, Mom. I'm so close to finding something. I can feel it," he muttered, scrolling through yet another dense legal document. Tanisha sighed, placing a gentle hand on her son's shoulder. "Jamal, look at me." Reluctantly, he tore his gaze away from the computer. "I know you're hurtin'. What that man did to you ain't right. But you can't let it consume you like this. You're smart, baby. Smarter than all of them. You'll come up with something even better. I know you will." Jamal felt tears pricking at his eyes. "But Mom, it's not just about the algorithm anymore. It's about what's right. How many other kids like me has he done this to? How many dreams has he crushed?" Before Tanisha could respond, Jamal's phone buzzed with a notification. It was an email from an unfamiliar address, whistleblower@securemail.com. The subject line read, Technova's new AI, we need to talk." Intrigued and wary, Jamal opened the email. The message was brief. "I know the truth about Reeves and your algorithm. Meet me tomorrow, 3 p.m. at the Coyote Point Marina. Come alone. A friend." Jamal's heart raced. Could this be the break he'd been hoping for? Or was it a trap set by Technova to silence him once and for all? "What is it, baby?" Tanisha asked, noticing the change in her son's expression. Jamal hesitated, then made a split-second decision. "Nothing, Mom. Just a friend from school." He hated lying to her, but he couldn't risk getting her involved. Not until he knew more. The next day, Jamal made his way to Coyote Point Marina, his nerves on edge. The cool breeze off the bay did little to calm his racing thoughts. As he approached the designated meeting spot, he saw a solitary figure standing at the end of a pier, gazing out at the water. As Jamal drew closer, the figure turned, and he gasped in surprise. It was Lisa Chen, his supervisor from Technova. "Lisa, you're the one who contacted me?" Jamal asked, confusion evident in his voice. Lisa nodded, her eyes darting around nervously. "I'm sorry for the cloak and dagger routine, Jamal. But after what happened, I couldn't risk being seen talking to you. So you believe me? About the algorithm. Jamal felt a surge of hope. I more than believe you, Jamal. I have proof. Lisa pulled out a USB drive from her pocket. This contains emails between Reeves and the board of directors. He explicitly takes credit for your work and outlines plans to sideline you if you cause any trouble. Jamal's hand shook as he reached for the drive. Lisa, why are you helping me? Lisa's expression hardened. Because you're not the first, Jamal. Reeves has been doing this for years, stealing ideas from interns and junior developers. I've watched it happen, and I've been too afraid to speak up. But seeing what he did to you, I couldn't stay silent anymore. As the implications of Lisa's words sank in, Jamal felt a mix of vindication and dread. What do we do now? Even with this evidence, who's going to believe us over Marcus Reeves? Lisa smiled, a glint of determination in her eyes. That's where things get interesting. You see, there's someone else who's very interested in exposing Reeves' corruption. Someone with the power and influence to make people listen. Who? Jamal asked, his curiosity piqued. Eliana Vega, Lisa replied. The tech prodigy who turned down a job at Technova to start her own company. She's been trying to prove Reeves' unethical practices for years. With your story and this evidence, we might just have what she needs to bring him down. As the sun began to set over the bay, casting a golden glow across the water, Jamal felt a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't just about clearing his name anymore. It was about justice, about standing up for all the voiceless innovators who had been exploited by corporate greed. I'm in, Jamal said, his voice firm with resolve. Whatever it takes, we're going to expose the truth. Little did Jamal know that his decision would set in motion a chain of events that would not only challenge the tech industry's status quo, but also put him in the crosshairs of some very dangerous people. The game was about to change, and Jamal Thompson was playing for keeps. The following week was a whirlwind of clandestine meetings and late-night strategy sessions. Jamal, Lisa, and Eliana Vega formed an unlikely alliance, each bringing their unique skills and perspectives to the table. Eliana, a fierce Latina woman in her early 30s, had a reputation for being both brilliant and uncompromising. Her company, Neuralink, was making waves with its ethical approach to AI development. When she first met Jamal, her piercing gaze seemed to look right through him. So you're the wunderkind who outfoxed Marcus Reeves, she said, a hint of admiration in her voice. I've been waiting years for someone like you to come along. Together, they pored over the evidence Lisa had provided, building a case that would be impossible to ignore. Jamal's original code, time-stamped and documented, formed the backbone of their argument. But it was the trail of emails and internal memos that painted a damning picture of systemic corruption within Technova. As they worked, Jamal couldn't help but notice the toll their clandestine operation was taking on Lisa. Dark circles formed under her eyes, and she jumped at every unexpected sound. Are you okay? He asked her one evening as they were leaving Eliana's office. Lisa gave him a wan smile. I'm fine. It's just, I've worked at Technova for 7 years. I believed in what we were doing. Finding out it was all built on lies and theft. It's not easy. Jamal nodded, understanding all too well the feeling of having one's world turned upside down. As their case against Reeves and Technova grew stronger, so did the sense that they were being watched. Unmarked cars lingered a little too long outside Jamal's house. Lisa reported strange clicks on her phone line. Even Eliana, with all her resources, seemed on edge. We need to move fast, Eliana announced during one of their meetings. I have a contact at the SEC who's willing to hear us out, but we have to be careful. If Reeves gets wind of this before we're ready, he'll bury us all. The plan was set. In 3 days, they would present their evidence to the Securities and Exchange Commission, exposing Technova's fraudulent practices and Reeves' intellectual property theft. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. The night before their scheduled meeting, Jamal was walking home from the bus stop, his mind racing with last-minute preparations. As he turned onto his street, a sleek black car pulled up beside him. The window rolled down, revealing Marcus Reeves' smug face. Get in, Thompson, We need to talk. Jamal's heart pounded in his chest. How much did Reeves know? Was this a trap? But curiosity and a desire to confront his tormentor won out. He slid into the back seat, immediately regretting his decision as the car sped away. I have to admit, I underestimated you, Reeves said, his tone conversational, as if they were discussing the weather. Most kids would have given up by now. But you're something special, aren't you? Jamal remained silent, his mind racing for a way out of this situation. Reeves continued, I'll cut to the chase. I know about your little crusade with Lisa and Eliana Vega. Admirable, really, but futile. He pulled out a tablet, showing Jamal a series of documents. You see, while you've been building your case against me, I've been busy too. These are signed affidavits from every member of my development team, swearing that they worked on the AI algorithm. Your word against theirs, I'm afraid. Jamal felt the blood drain from his face. That's impossible. They know the truth. Reeves chuckled, a cold, mirthless sound. Truth is subjective, my young friend, especially when careers and reputations are on the line. Face it, Jamal, you've lost. As the car came to a stop, Jamal realized they were back on his street. Reeves leaned in close, his voice low and menacing. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to call off your little meeting with the SEC. You're going to tell Lisa and Eliana that you made a mistake, that you were confused about your role in the project. And then you're going to disappear from the tech world. Forever. If you don't. He let the threat hang in the air. Jamal's mind raced. Everything they had worked for, all the risks they had taken, seemed to crumble in an instant. As he reached for the door handle, desperate to escape this nightmare, Reeves grabbed his arm. Oh, and Jamal? I'd hate for anything to happen to that bright future your mother's always dreamed of for you. Stanford has such a competitive admission process, doesn't it? With that parting shot, Reeves released him. Jamal stumbled out of the car, watching as it disappeared into the night. He stood there, shaking, as the full weight of Reeves' threats sank in. What could he do now? Go through with the plan and risk everything? Or give up and let Reeves win? As Jamal trudged towards his house, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders, he was unaware that a pair of eyes had witnessed the entire exchange from the shadows. Eyes that belonged to someone who was about to throw an unexpected wrench into Marcus Reeves' carefully laid plans. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake Silicon Valley to its core, and Jamal Thompson was standing at the center of the storm. Jamal barely slept that night, Reeves' threats echoing in his mind. As dawn broke, he made a decision. He couldn't give up now, not when they were so close. But he also couldn't risk the safety of his mother or the careers of Lisa and Eliana. He needed a new plan, and fast. With trembling fingers, he dialed Lisa's number. We need to meet, now, and bring Eliana. An hour later, the trio sat in a quiet corner of a bustling coffee shop, their voices low as Jamal recounted his encounter with Reeves. That bastard, Eliana hissed, her eyes flashing with anger. He's more desperate than I thought. Lisa looked pale, her hands wrapped tightly around her coffee cup. What do we do now? If he has those affidavits? Jamal took a deep breath. I have an idea. It's risky, but it might be our only shot. He leaned in, outlining his plan. As he spoke, he saw the doubt in their eyes slowly transform into cautious hope. It could work, Eliana mused, a slow smile spreading across her face. But we'll need help, and ironclad alibis. Lisa nodded, her resolve strengthening. I'm in, whatever it takes. As they finalized the details of their audacious plan, none of them noticed the young woman at the next table, her face hidden behind a laptop. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, transcribing every word of their conversation. Across town, in the opulent office of Marcus Reeves, a phone buzzed. The CEO's face darkened as he read the message from his spy. Clever boy, he muttered, reaching for his desk phone. But not clever enough. The next 48 hours were a blur of activity. Jamal, Lisa, and Eliana put their plan into motion, each playing their part to perfection. They knew they were racing against time, with Reeves undoubtedly moving to counter their every move. On the morning of the SEC meeting, Jamal stood outside the federal building, his heart pounding. This was it. Everything hinged on the next few hours. As he climbed the steps, a hand grabbed his arm. He spun around, expecting to see one of Reeves' goons. Instead, he found himself face to face with the last person he expected. Max! Jamal gasped, recognizing his fellow intern from Technova. What are you doing here? Max's eyes darted nervously. I overheard your conversation with Reeves that night. I've been following you ever since. I want to help. Jamal's mind raced. Could he trust Max? Or was this another of Reeves' traps? But as he looked into Max's earnest face, he saw something familiar, the same fear and determination he'd felt when he first decided to fight back. Okay, Jamal said, making a split-second decision. But whatever happens next, you have to be absolutely sure. There's no going back. Max nodded solemnly. I'm sure. What Reeves is doing, it's not right, and I can't stand by anymore. With an unexpected ally at his side, Jamal entered the building. As they approached the conference room where the SEC officials waited, he saw Lisa and Eliana already there, looking tense but determined. The door opened, and Marcus Reeves strode in, flanked by his legal team. His confident smirk faltered for a moment when he saw Jamal, quickly replaced by a look of cold fury. Mr. Thompson, one of the SEC officials began, you claim to have evidence of intellectual property theft and fraudulent practices at Technova. We're here to listen to your testimony. Jamal took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. He glanced at his allies, Lisa, Eliana, and now Max, drawing strength from their presence. Then he turned to face Reeves, whose smug expression clearly said, Your move, kid. With steady hands, Jamal reached into his bag and pulled out a flash drive. I do have evidence, he said, his voice stronger than he felt. But before I present it, there's something you all need to see. He inserted the drive into the room's computer, and a video began to play on the large screen. It was footage from a hidden camera, showing Reeves in his office, openly discussing his plan to steal Jamal's algorithm and threatening other employees to stay quiet. The room erupted into chaos. Reeves leapt to his feet, shouting about illegal recordings and set-up jobs. His lawyers huddled together, whispering furiously. The SEC officials called for order, their faces a mix of shock and grim determination. But Jamal wasn't done. He produced another flash drive, this one containing his original work on the algorithm, complete with timestamps and development logs. Then came Lisa's documented evidence of Reeves' past thefts, corroborated by Max's surprise testimony about similar incidents he'd witnessed. As the evidence mounted, Jamal watched Reeves' facade crumble. The once mighty CEO seemed to shrink in his chair, his face ashen as he realized the game was up. The SEC officials conferred briefly before turning to address the room. In light of this evidence, we are opening a full investigation into Technova and Mr. Reeves. Mr. Thompson, Ms. Chun, Ms. Vega, and Mr. He glanced at Max. Parker, Max supplied, standing a little straighter. Mr. Parker, you will all need to make formal statements. As for you, Mr. Reeves, I suggest you call your lawyer. You're going to need one. As Reeves was led from the room, he shot Jamal a look of pure venom. But Jamal stood tall, meeting his gaze without flinching. He had done it. Against all odds, David had toppled Goliath. But as the adrenaline of the moment began to fade, a new reality set in. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. The tech world was about to be turned upside down, and Jamal Thompson was at the center of the storm. Little did he know, the biggest challenges and the most unexpected twists were yet to come. The aftermath of the SEC meeting was a whirlwind of activity. News of Marcus Reeves' downfall spread through Silicon Valley like wildfire, sending shockwaves through the tech industry. Technova's stock plummeted, and a flurry of internal investigations and legal proceedings followed. Jamal found himself thrust into the spotlight, hailed as a whistleblower and champion of ethical innovation. Interviews, speaking engagements, and job offers poured in. It was overwhelming, exhilarating, and terrifying all at once. "You did it, baby," Tanisha said one evening, tears of pride in her eyes as she watched her son on a national news program. "You stood up for what's right, just like I always taught you." Jamal smiled, but there was a hint of unease in his eyes. "I couldn't have done it without help, Mom, and it's not over yet." The SEC investigation is still ongoing, and there's talk of criminal charges against Reeves. As the weeks passed, Jamal struggled to balance his newfound fame with the ongoing legal proceedings. He spent countless hours in depositions and meetings with lawyers, reliving every detail of his experience at Technova. Lisa and Max, both hailed as heroes in their own right, faced similar challenges. They had lost their jobs at Technova but found themselves inundated with offers from companies eager to prove their ethical standings in the wake of the scandal. Eliana Vega emerged as a powerful ally, using her influence in the tech world to keep the spotlight on the issue of intellectual property theft and exploitation of young innovators. She took Jamal under her wing, mentoring him as he navigated his sudden rise to prominence. But amidst the chaos and celebration, a new threat was brewing. Marcus Reeves, out on bail and facing multiple federal charges, was not a man to go down without a fight. His resources might have been diminished, but his connections ran deep, and his thirst for revenge burned hot. One rainy evening, as Jamal was leaving a late-night strategy session with his legal team, he noticed a sleek black car following him. His heart raced as he quickened his pace, memories of his last encounter with Reeves flooding back. Just as he was about to break into a run, a hand grabbed his arm and pulled him into a darkened doorway. Jamal's first instinct was to fight, but then he recognized his savior. It was Max. "What are you doing here?" Jamal whispered, his eyes darting to the street where the black car slowly cruised past. Max's face was grim. "We need to talk. Not here. It's not safe." They made their way to a 24-hour diner, choosing a booth far from the windows. As they settled in with cups of coffee, Max leaned forward, his voice low and urgent. "Reeves isn't done with us, Jamal. I've been doing some digging and it's bad. He's calling in favors, pulling strings we didn't even know existed. He's trying to discredit us, paint us as opportunistic liars out to destroy a great American company." Jamal felt a chill run down his spine. "But the evidence, the video," Max shook his head. "He's claiming it was all fabricated, a sophisticated deepfake, and he's got experts willing to testify to that effect. But that's not the worst of it." He hesitated, glancing around before continuing. "I think he's going after our families. My parents' business suddenly lost its biggest contract. Lisa's brother was fired from his job for budget cuts. And your mom." Jamal's blood ran cold. "What about my mom?" "There's been someone asking questions at her workplace about her immigration status, her financial history. Jamal, I think Reeves is trying to find something, anything, to use against us." As the implications sank in, Jamal felt a mix of fear and fury rising within him. They had won the battle, but Reeves was waging a war, a dirty, no-holds-barred war that threatened everything and everyone they cared about. "What do we do?" Jamal asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Max's eyes hardened with determination. "We fight back, but this time we need to be smarter. We need to think like Reeves, anticipate his moves, and we need help, powerful help." As they sat in that dimly lit diner, plotting their next move, neither Jamal nor Max noticed the figure watching them from across the street. A figure with a camera, capturing every word, every gesture, feeding information to a man who was far from defeated. The game had changed. The stakes were higher than ever. And as dawn broke over Silicon Valley, the stage was set for a confrontation that would not only determine Jamal's future, but potentially reshape the entire tech industry. Little did they know, the biggest twist in this tale of David versus Goliath was yet to come, a revelation that would turn everything they thought they knew on its head. The following weeks were a blur of clandestine meetings, sleepless nights, and mounting tension. Jamal, Max, Lisa, and Eliana formed a tight-knit group, working tirelessly to counter Reeves' attacks while pushing forward with the legal proceedings. Eliana used her connections to bring in top-tier cybersecurity experts to verify the authenticity of their evidence. Lisa reached out to former Technova employees, building a network of witnesses willing to testify about Reeves' past misdeeds. Max, proving to be a skilled investigator, dug deeper into Reeves' financial records, searching for any sign of illegal activities. Jamal, for his part, became the public face of their cause. He gave interviews, spoke at tech conferences, and even testified before a congressional committee on the need for stronger protections for innovators and whistleblowers. His youth, intelligence, and earnest demeanor made him a compelling figure, winning over skeptics and inspiring a new generation of ethical tech enthusiasts. But the pressure was taking its toll. Jamal's mother had been forced to take a leave of absence from her job due to the constant harassment. Lisa's brother was struggling to find new employment. Max's parents were on the verge of losing their business. The weight of responsibility for those caught in the crossfire of this war bore heavily on Jamal's shoulders. It was during this dark time that an unexpected ally emerged. Rebecca Zhang, a rising star in Silicon Valley and CEO of a rival tech company, reached out to Jamal with an intriguing offer. "I've been watching your fight, Mr. Thompson," she said during a secretive meeting in a private club, "and I believe I can help you bring down Marcus Reeves once and for all." Jamal leaned forward, intrigued but wary. "Why would you want to help us?" Rebecca's eyes hardened. "Let's just say Mr. Reeves and I have a history, one that I've been waiting years to settle." With Rebecca's resources added to their arsenal, the tide began to turn. Her team of lawyers found loopholes in Reeves' defense strategy. Her PR machine countered his smear campaign with a flood of positive stories about Jamal and his allies. But most importantly, she provided them with a crucial piece of information: the location of Reeves' secret servers, which contained backups of all his illegal activities. Armed with this knowledge, Jamal and his team formulated a daring plan. They would need to access those servers, download the incriminating data, and deliver it to the authorities. It was risky, potentially illegal, and could backfire spectacularly if they were caught. As they prepared for this high-stakes operation, Jamal couldn't shake a nagging feeling. Everything seemed to be falling into place a little too perfectly. Rebecca's timely intervention, the convenient discovery of the secret servers, it all felt almost scripted. The night before the planned server raid, Jamal tossed and turned, unable to sleep. His mind raced, replaying every moment of the past few months. Suddenly, a stray comment, an odd look, a series of coincidences, all began to coalesce into a terrifying possibility. With trembling hands, he reached for his phone and dialed a number he knew by heart. "Eliana, I think we've been played. All of us. And I think I know who's really behind all of this." The following day dawned bright and clear, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within Jamal. He gathered his team: Max, Lisa, Eliana, and reluctantly, Rebecca, in a secure location. The tension in the room was palpable as Jamal shared his suspicions. "I believe we've been manipulated from the very beginning," he said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "And I think I know who's behind it all." All eyes were on him as he laid out his theory, a complex web of deception that stretched back months, possibly years. As he spoke, he watched their expressions change from confusion to disbelief to dawning horror. "But that would mean," Max began, his face pale. "Yes," Jamal nodded grimly. "Marcus Reeves isn't our real enemy. He's just another pawn in a much larger game." The room erupted into chaos as everyone tried to speak at once. Accusations flew, alliances shifted, and long-held beliefs crumbled. But amidst the turmoil, a plan began to form, a plan so audacious, so unexpected, that it just might work. As night fell, they put their plan into action. But instead of raiding Reeves' servers, they set a trap of their own. Using the skills and connections they'd gathered over the past months, they created an elaborate ruse designed to draw out the true puppet master. The hours ticked by, each moment fraught with tension. And then, just as it seemed their gambit had failed, everything changed in an instant. The door burst open, revealing a figure that left everyone stunned. It was Thomas Chen, Lisa's seemingly mild-mannered father and a long-time mid-level manager at Technova. "Well played, Mr. Thompson," he said, his gentle demeanor replaced by a cold, calculating gaze. "I must admit, I underestimated you." As the truth unfolded, the full scope of Thomas Chen's machinations became clear. He had been the architect behind it all, orchestrating Reeves' theft of Jamal's algorithm, manipulating Lisa into becoming a whistleblower, even arranging for Eliana and Rebecca to get involved, all to set up an elaborate power play that would have seen him emerge as the savior of Silicon Valley, ready to take control of a weakened Technova and reshape the tech industry in his image. "But why?" Lisa asked, her voice breaking as she confronted her father. "Why go to such lengths?" Thomas's expression softened for a moment as he looked at his daughter. "For you, Lisa. For your future. I've watched for years as people like Reeves climb to the top by stepping on others. I wanted to change the game, to create a world where true innovators like you and Jamal could thrive." But even as he spoke, the sound of sirens filled the air. Jamal's trap hadn't just exposed Thomas. It had also alerted the authorities. As the FBI stormed in, Thomas Chen turned to Jamal with a mix of admiration and regret. "You really are exceptional, Mr. Thompson. Perhaps in another life we could have worked together to change the world." In the aftermath of Thomas Chen's arrest, the tech world was turned upside down once again. The full story of his manipulation sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley, leading to widespread reforms and a renewed focus on ethical innovation. Marcus Reeves, revealed to be as much a victim of manipulation as anyone else, faced a reduced sentence in exchange for his cooperation. Technova underwent a complete overhaul, with Lisa surprisingly being offered a leadership role in the company's new ethical compliance division. Eliana and Rebecca, their rivalry exposed as another of Thomas's manipulations, found common ground and began collaborating on projects to support young innovators like Jamal. As for Jamal himself, he emerged from the ordeal wiser, more cautious, but also more determined than ever to make a positive impact in the tech world. He declined numerous lucrative job offers, instead choosing to start his own small company focused on developing ethical AI solutions. On a warm summer evening, almost a year to the day since his fateful meeting with Marcus Reeves, Jamal stood on the balcony of his new office, overlooking the San Francisco Bay. Max joined him, handing him a cup of coffee. "Hard to believe how much has changed," Max mused. "You know, despite everything, I can't help but admire Thomas Chen's vision. He was wrong in his methods, but his goal of creating a more equitable tech industry." Jamal nodded thoughtfully. "That's the real lesson in all of this. It's not enough to have good intentions. We have to be vigilant, to question everything, and to always strive to do what's right, even when it's difficult." As the sun set over Silicon Valley, casting a golden glow across the landscape, Jamal felt a sense of hope and purpose wash over him. The road ahead would be challenging, but he was ready to face it, armed with knowledge, surrounded by true allies, and driven by an unwavering commitment to using technology to make the world a better place. In the end, the greatest twist in Jamal Thompson's journey wasn't about corporate espionage or technological breakthroughs. It was about the power of integrity, the strength found in unexpected alliances, and the realization that true innovation comes not just from brilliant ideas, but from the courage to stand up for what's right. As night fell and the lights of Silicon Valley twinkled to life, Jamal smiled, ready to write the next chapter in his extraordinary story, one line of code at a time. Thank you for listening until the end. Share your opinion about the story in the comments and let us know which character you liked the most. If this story touched you and you want to hear more, click on the next story appearing on your screen. Leave a like and subscribe to our channel so we can build a great community of people who share emotional stories together. Until the next story.